Good afternoon. Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting this. And with the lights, I feel like I should be dancing with the stars or dancing with the librarians. But good afternoon. My name is Brian Vetruba. I am the Germanic Languages and Literatures and Comparative Literature Librarian at Washington University in St. Louis. So welcome to Session 4, 20th Century Scholarship Forging the Future. Similar to the earlier presentations today, the next three presenters will be discussing projects and ways to collaborate with LIS professionals and those outside the field to create and provide sustainable access to digital content for current and future scholars. We'll be hearing about projects from three different settings: the DH landscape in Latin America, a national library in Europe, and a university library in Utah. So I'm really looking forward to hearing the commonalities as well as the differences in their approaches, collaborations, and experiences. So I'm just going to give you brief bios, but I would recommend that you take a look at their full biographical biographies in the program. So first we have Silvia Gutiérrez. I'm sorry, I'm really bad at pronouncing names that were in a language I don't know, and I have one that is mispronounced all the time, so I apologize. De la Torre from El Colegio de México, and she's currently the Digital Scholarship Librarian at that institution in Mexico City. And in 2013 to 2015, she was a Contact Day Fellowship recipient where she studied Digital Humanities at the University of Würzburg, and with also time at King's College in London. She holds a BA in Spanish Language and Literature and has served as editor-in-chief for the Humanities Department Digital Editions at the University of Veracruz. And following Silvia, Ariane, I knew I was going to do that, Ariane Bouchard, who is project manager for legal deposit of ebooks at the National Library of France, the BNF. And she is a trained archivist paleographer, and she graduated from the ENSSIB in 2015. And she's worked at the BNF in various roles since then. And following Ariane, we will have a presentation by Robert Murdoch, who is the Associate University Librarian for Collections and Technical Services at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. And prior to being Associate University Librarian there, he served as Deputy University Librarian at the Utah State University. So I'm just going to turn it over to Silvia, and please join me in welcoming them to the stage.
Hi, thank you very much. I know everyone says this, that they're super happy to be here because it's a very nice building and everything, but I want to say it as well. You know, this is a marvelous place, and thank you for inviting me and making it possible. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to say, I'm going to do like imaginary trapezoid. I think that's the name of the figure, yeah? Because I'm going to go from something specific to something general, again and again specific, yeah? Okay, so this thing specific is the DH+Lib universe, yeah? This is going to be the Digital Humanities world. This is going to be the Humanidades Digitales world. That is the Digital Humanities in Spanish and Humanidades Digitais in Portuguese, yeah? And then the DH+Lib community in Latin America, yeah? So do you see the figure? Thank you, because I didn't draw it. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to say is I think that this DH+Lib thing is not so innovative, because I don't know what you feel, but I think libraries have been doing digital humanities before it was called like that, because you've been organizing knowledge since ancient times, and now we call it, of course, metadata or whatever, but it's pretty much the same thing. You've been making it retrievable since God knows when, and that's what we now call, this services of discovery and but it's basically the same thing, and you've been preserving knowledge and cultural objects. So I think those are activities that are in the base of the digital humanities. Okay, this is not my idea, by the way. It's of Isabel Galina, who is in La Universidad Autónoma de México in Mexico City. Okay, now let's talk about this thing that it's DH+Lib. Let us also remember that it has happened since it was called Humanities Computing, yeah? So when you see the database with all the abstracts of the Humanities Computing conferences, then you will find libraries from the beginning, okay? Also, when McCarthy and, I don't know how to pronounce his name, it's like Kirschenbaum? Okay, did a survey on what was happening in libraries concerning humanities computing, they found out that there were 19 centers, so 19 library-based computing centers. So, it's been around since a while. And I think it's very interesting to note that these centers had the word electronic text many times in them, like a description, yeah? And why I think that's important? Because now it sounds kind of a 90s thing, it's kind of old-fashioned, but it's also the base. You cannot do digital research if you don't have the resources, okay? So I think that's very important. And then publications came. One of the first I could find, doing an extensive search, was in 2002. That's by Vetruba? I don't know. Does it ring any bell? Well, she wrote this article in 2002, and that was published by the Advances in Librarianship. That's a journal that it's published in the UK by Emerald. Okay. Then in 2004 we have the Companion for the Digital Humanities. This is the moment where the term is established. And then 2005, this book that it's called Digital Libraries plus and the Challenges of the Digital Humanities. And this is the first book I could find that has Digital Humanities and Libraries in the title. Yeah. So we have 2002, 2004, 2005, and these different publications. But as you may note, these are publications either from the US or the UK, and all of these are US American authors. Okay. Librarians in the Digital Humanities book. Also, when you see the affiliations of this of the people who wrote in the Companion for the Digital Humanities, you may note that they are not only from the US, but from a specific side of the US, and also that not only they are from the UK, but from a specific part of UK, which is London. Okay, UCL and KCL. Now, let's talk about when this thing got established. There were some publications, there were some conferences, and then suddenly we started seeing this type of job descriptions, right? Which means a lot and nothing, like being a librarian, right? Perhaps the first digital humanities librarian might be Glenn Worthy, who works in Stanford. And they say he has been doing it since 1997, 7 years prior to the book of the Digital Humanities. And then the first I could find that had that job description was this librarian here in 2012. And then the now called DH+Lib community did a survey to understand how many people had DH in their job descriptions, how many librarians I mean, and there was 12%, which means 14 people that already had in 2012 that name in their job description. And then we have the SIJ interest group of the Digital Humanities Conference. Okay, so you've seen I like maps, and I've been doing some maps of the DH community. This is of the DH centers, and as you can see, Latin America is almost blank, right? Because apparently we don't do DH. And then places where you can study an MA in Digital Humanities are these. The point in Mexico is fairly new, as well as the one in Colombia. That's this Digital Humanities Master just opened this year in Mexico, and the one in Colombia last year, okay? And so I was wondering, like, don't we exist? Because I don't see myself in any dot in the maps. And I'm repeating again another phrase from Isabela Galina in one of her keynotes at the DH conference. I asked myself, are we there? And if we're there, what are we doing? And a previous work was with Elika Ortega, who some of you know, and we did a survey to see who were the guys or girls identifying themselves with the digital humanities, yeah? And we saw that many people, well, not with the digital humanities, but with the Humanidades digitales, yeah? That identified themselves as humanistas digitales. And there were many of them, and most of them were from the literary studies Bereich, I don't know how the area, and then history, and then infoscience. And this is funny because it's the same in the digital humanities community in the Anglo world, yeah? And that area of pink dots is the infosciences, yeah? So they were there. And now, since I work in a library and I found myself, I've been always a librarian, closet. Do you have that expression, a closet librarian? Can I be one? Okay, so I was a closet librarian, and now I'm working there, and I was wondering, okay, so now I want to know better about this community, this Humanidades Digitales community that works in libraries. So I did another survey, and it was super fortunate that Micaela Chavez, who some of you know, the director, the dean of my library at el Colegio de México, she was so great at sending this survey to everyone she knows, and when I mean everyone she knows, that's a lot of people, right? So she distributed the survey, and then we got 60 participants that self-identify themselves as humanistas digitales, humanistas digitais, in 12 different countries in Latin America. And as we can see, they also thought, one of the questions was, since when do you think you've been doing digital humanities and why? And many of them thought that they were doing not many of them, 3 of them thought that they were doing digital humanities since 1999. And basically they were doing digital libraries and databases, as I said. Right? The digital humanities have been in the libraries before it was called like that. And then some people got some specialized training, and in 2004, before 2004, we already have people that think I was doing digital humanities since then. And this is the picture now, and many are doing things with repositories, others are doing things of digitizing resources and so on. And something that I found kind of interesting is to see, there was a part of the survey where they could say what did they do, like if they were librarians, archivists, if they identify themselves as historians and so on. And the ones that had more disciplines were the ones from the social sciences and archival sciences. And also, I did a little script in R to understand what were the co-occurrences of these disciplines, and it turns out that archivists are the ones that are best connected with the other ones. Like, they do a little bit of information sciences and also a little bit of history and so on. Okay. These are some of the projects of the people who answered the survey. This is from the National Library of Costa Rica. And although it's a very simple website, I think it's nice that I believe they really thought about the users. Like, they did little cute icons, so you could just identify right away that there was a digital collection on graphic humor. And so it's pretty nice. This is from la UNAM, Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México, and this is a project of digitizing old photos and embedding them in a map, so you get more information of, you can explore the collection like in a map. And this is our own. I'm really proud of it because it's a collection that it has a broad name, so we didn't want to do a little project on a super specific thing that only we knew about, but rather give it a big name and just hope that other people will jump in. And it did happen. It was just so wonderful. We had papers about los revolucionarios, the revolutionary people that were, active in the revolution, of course. And we did presentations with the how do you say, Enkelkinder? With the grandchildren, and it was so nice to see, like, oh, my grandfather, he fought there and there, and they could hear interviews and so on. So I think something that I value a lot about this Digital Humanities projects in Latin America is that we don't have many resources, but we try to make the most out of them. What I mean by make the most out of it is like to really engage people, like, Okay, so, and then we have this one from Colombia. This is collaborative cataloging, and also, I think, I don't know, in El Quijote there's a part where they say that creativity comes out of necessity, and I think this is the case for Latin America and for you guys as well. It's I've seen that you don't have that much budget sometimes, but this is a way of getting cataloging by not only using your resources but trying to engage other people and other scholars. And also, this is a collaboration between Columbia University and La Fundación Getulio Vargas in Rio de Janeiro, and I think it's just a talk with the Latin American colleagues. You can see that they've come around a lot of problems, because this is the biggest collection. History Lab holds the biggest collection of unclassified CII documents, yeah? And CII documents are very well organized, so OCR wasn't a big challenge. But the thing with the Brazilian papers is that information is everywhere. It's not like you have a date and then to whom they send it. It's like it's everywhere, and they came up with really creative solutions to understand where information was. And just some final thoughts. Yee-hoo! I think there are many HID, Humanidades Digitales, and libraries initiatives in Latin America, and they do not have a pin in the map, also because, it's hard to communicate in this language. My mouth hurts after speaking English for a while, and I think we can profit a lot from a conversation, because a good thing about getting into this ship a bit later is that I think we have a fresh look, like a critic look, and it's not about let's do digital humanities because we can. It's again ask ourselves, why? Why do we need all those 3 million digitized papers? What for? Is it going to help us to build a better history, a better memory? So I think those questions we can ask ourselves again and ask ourselves together. And I think I'm going to leave it there because, but thank you so much. Oh, those are my acknowledgements. Thank you, Judy and Sarah. You were super kind. Okay, bye.
Thank you, Silvia. And now we'll hear from Ariane Bouchard from the Bibliothèque nationale de France, who will be talking about their web archives.
Okay, sorry. So thank you for inviting me. This presentation will be in two parts. In the first part, I will be talking about the way to explore web archives at the BNF when you are a first-timer, when you have research for the first time. And then I'll develop two case studies of two use cases of web archives in partnership with researchers. So just few facts about web archives at the BNF. We harvest the web under the legal framework, under the framework of legal deposit. It's a law from 2006 and a decree from 2011, and it says we have to harvest the French web on every publication online. This has consequences for access, as the consultation is only on-site, and you need an accreditation to get there. Today we have 20 billions of web pages. It's all kinds of documents, social media, images, downloadable files, text, and 800 terabytes of data. And the collection runs from 1996 to today. So, if you want to do a research in the web archives, take it as a trip. You choose your destinations. In fact, as we can only give access on-site, there is an effort to make more sites available for access, with access. The Ministry of Culture took a decision in 2014 to authorize 26 institutions to give access to web archives. We started the deployment of web archives in these institutions, and today 16 institutions give access to web archives. And in the deployment, we try to ensure that the territory was covered properly. So then you have to get a pass. So there is an accreditation procedure. In fact, it's a personal interview with a librarian, and it's less to control than to give few tips about how to explore web archive and how to find your way in the research area. And then you go to a computer from the library, or you can you can access web archives on your personal device thanks to a software. And you arrive, there is in the interface. So there are several exploring tools. The URL search. So if you have the address of a website, a specific website, it opens a calendar, and you choose the capture, the date of the capture of this website. Guided tour, it's made by librarians. It's like a bit like an exhibition online. It's on a thematic selection. And then the last one is a full text search. So we recently did it again, and I'll develop it later. So I think it's quite clear what is it. You put a word and you have results. And if you are lost, there is supporting resource like this one, guide, and you can ask librarians. So now I come to the case studies. As Emmanuel Bermes said, researchers come more and more with specific needs. They need to explore at larger scales web archives, and they need raw data. And I'll show that by addressing those needs, we also improve our services. The first example is mapping World War I on the web. So it's a project with the National Library, the BDIC, which is a contemporary library, a library for contemporary history, and Telecom Paris. And I speak under control of Valérie Baudouin, who is here. So the aim of this project was to study social practices on internet, aiming to build and keep memory of the World War I. And basically, at the National Library, we provided with the data. We run a specific harvest so that the researcher had a coherent corpus, and we generated the metadata. And at Telecom Paris, there was the historical expertise and the treatment and analysis of data. And one of the strengths, I think, of this team is that there was also an engineer who had really specific technical skills to do the treatment and analysis of data. So it's enabled to Telecom Paris to produce a map of the website related to the subject, and specifically to analyze one of the most important websites, which was a forum discussion. So the project outcomes are here, a graph, obviously, some publications. And for the National Library, it was also very beneficial because it can be used again. The script now exists to generate map of websites, and also Telecom Paris could give feedbacks on the collection policy of our harvest. The second project is studying the web of the 90s. Sorry. Here. It's part of the Corpus project that we talked about earlier. In fact, Web90 is a team on a project funded by the ANR, which is a national agency for research, and it studies the history of internet. They were interested in web archives, in all web archives, as they mainly studied literature before, and they used internet archives. And they had a specific need for full text research. So once again, we provide collection and full text indexing, and the team of researchers offers historical expertise and analysis, which led to new results. Also to a guided tour, which is the exhibition online that I showed earlier, and other things like a congress. And for the library, we have now a full text index of what we call web incunabula, as they are the oldest collection we have of the web. And it also enabled us to create a new interface for full text search. In fact, two. The first one is now in the user interface that is in the 16 libraries. So it's still a prototype, and it's based on Shine technology, which is a technology by the British Library. And the second one is iLabs. This one is specific for researchers. It's only at the National Library, and you need to sign an agreement with the BNF to have access. And there are in this interface collections from 1996 to 2000, and terrorist attacks collections too. So to conclude, I would say that collaboration with researchers is a win-win situation. It's a new way of studying collection. It gave us new methodologies and testing new technologies. And it's also leads to improvement of our library services. Thank you. Peter Sterling is, in fact, the one in charge of relationship with researchers. So if you have a specific question, I think it's better to ask, to write to him, or to ask Valérie Baudouin here.
Thank you, Ariane. And now Robert Murdoch from Brigham Young University is going to be talking about the Sophie Project, which as a German studies librarian is one of my favorites. So I use it all the time.
I want to echo the thanks and appreciation to the planners of this symposium and the sponsors. It has been a terrific day, and it's a privilege to be here. I'm not a multitasker, so I'm going to read this paper. For those of you who are interested, I have a supplement on the registration table that gives some details about the project I'm going to speak on. It was in 1909 that women were admitted into German universities. But not until the Weimar Constitution in 1919 were equal educational opportunities provided to both women and men. Long before, however, German-speaking women had produced significant literary and artistic works with little formal education. Among the most prominent women authors was Sophie von LaRouche. In the preface to Friederike Baldinger's autobiography, von LaRouche noted the following about Baldinger's lack of formal education. This autobiography demonstrates that the complaints, "I have had little opportunity to increase and expand my knowledge," are no satisfactory excuse for ignorance. Because for those sincerely eager for knowledge, each glance and the slightest sound is educational, just as a plant utilizes every drop of dew. This same exuberant thirst for knowledge is what sparked the creation of a project at Brigham Young University known as named partially after Sophie von LaRouche. Sophie, a digital library of works by German-speaking women. The BYU library has become increasingly involved in this project, spearheaded by the university's German department. From the beginning, this project has explored and implemented new dimensions of engagement with scholars, students, and others. In many ways, it is a model, I believe, that successfully addresses numerous challenges and opportunities facing 21st century research libraries. The Sophie Project began life in a filing cabinet of Professor Michelle Stott James. James collaborated with other German department faculty to create a reader for students in 1997. Shortly thereafter, launched an online version. It is considered a premier online source of literary works authored by German-speaking women. The creation of the project addressed two goals, each of which revolved around the advancement of scholarship and knowledge. The first goal was to design and implement a successful long-term undergraduate student-faculty research mentoring program. The desired outcomes included the acquisition of proficiencies in scholarly research, identification and documentation of collections, editing, analytical writing, subject knowledge, and German language skills. These competencies are achieved through individual student research projects assigned by faculty in the German department. Simultaneously, the German faculty, and particularly Dr. James, recognized a void in the scholarly record of literary works, music, and social commentary authored by German-speaking women. Generally speaking, scholars, students, and the public possessed little exposure to these pioneering women and lacked access to their significant contributions. To fill this vacuum, the second goal was articulated. German department faculty decided to plan, build, and preserve an extensive digital library populated by the works of German-speaking women authors. As a vehicle for undergraduate students to participate in research and writing opportunities to develop German language skills, the Sophie Project is an active venue allowing undergraduate students to closely engage with faculty mentors. At the same time, the scholarly outcomes derived from the research projects provide a vast amount of primary source material for the digital library of works. All material is open access and free of copyright restrictions. Until recently, the German department has been the sole developer, manager, content builder, host, and curator of the Sophie Project. In early 2015, drastic changes in operation and vision about the project came about. The Library German Department and University Library created a collaborative partnership, increasing investment in the Sophie Project and expanding its reach. The main catalyst igniting this partnership was a proposed purchase of a large CD-ROM collection of literature by German-speaking women. In 2014, the European Studies Librarians submitted a formal request to the library's Collection Management and Development Committee on behalf of the German department to purchase a collection of approximately 3,000 transcribed texts from a Berlin publisher. The publisher was prepared to provide online publication rights and carefully corrected PDF files for the collection. The German faculty were keen on having the library finance this because it would add a significant amount of new content to the Sophie Project, nearly doubling the collection size in a single purchase. It was not anticipated that the purchase request and associated acquisition process would join together numerous players, each possessing unique talents, visions, and expertise with the willingness to reframe the Sophie Project through cooperative engagement and collaboration. The benefits were not immediately apparent. At first, the collection development personnel in the library were unsympathetic towards the proposed acquisition. Reservations about the price of the collection, doubts about the narrow audience, and limited discoverability of titles served as obstacles. Consequently, the acquisition decision was postponed for nearly a year. Because of the persistence of the European Studies librarian, though, interest in the acquisition and its potential was rekindled. Eventually, he succeeded in expressing his vision to library decision makers of a language department integrating 21st century scholarship and learning opportunities. Then the library's perspective of the project changed. Purchase negotiations resumed. Buying an obscure collection of German literary works for a narrow audience was no longer viewed as a poor investment, but rather a unique cooperative opportunity. Once the library's goal shifted from solely purchasing a literary collection to high priority pursuit of collaborative objectives, the project took on new dimensions of scholarship, embracing the complete cycle of learning. Representatives from the library and German department met to discuss roles and investment each entity was prepared to make for digital scholarship and scholarly communications. The decision provided a bond necessary to expand opportunities for scholars, librarians, students, and the public. As the collaborative work and collegial relationships continue to evolve, a number of positive outcomes are occurring. Burdensome boundaries have been cast aside. Unnecessary proprietary expectations and conventional workflows are dwindling. Domains and roles are set aside, as are concerns for individual recognition. German department faculty, librarians, undergraduate students, student employees, and technology specialists are all united in a cooperative alliance, each working together to boost the desired outcomes of the Sophie Project. This collaborative alliance paved the way for a number of important decisions. One, migrate the digital library from the original website hosted and managed by the German department to the library's institutional repository. The IR uses Digital Commons platform managed by bpress. This decision was driven by two factors. First, bpress manages and maintains the website, thus freeing time for library personnel to focus on content management. Second, bpress has expertise in search engine optimization field, which has been very successful in driving traffic to the site. Two, proceed with the purchase of the CD-ROM collection of literature and add all content in pristine, full-text, searchable PDF format. Three, assign all metadata responsibilities and processes to the library. Four, use current international metadata, cataloging, authority standards, and controlled vocabularies. Five, accelerate the transcription work. The end goal is to transcribe all content contained in the digital collection. Transcription of each title is done by undergraduate students with German language skills. The intent is to create a corpus of work that will accommodate in-depth text mining. Oversight and quality control of the transcription work is under the direction of the European Studies librarian and is assisted by a German language cataloger. Sixth, ensure German department faculty maintain complete responsibility, oversight, and sponsorship for the research mentoring program aspects of the project. Seven, retain control within the German Department of Content for the Sophie Project. Faculty and mentoring students curate the content to be included and deleted in the project. 8, German Department will continue to pursue outreach and gifting opportunities with national and international colleagues to add further open access content created by German-speaking women. The Sophie Project was publicly launched on the library's institutional repository in June 2016. A good percentage of the content, fiction, nonfiction, articles, reviews, drama, poetry, and music from the last 5 centuries has been uploaded into the IR over the last 16 months. All players involved in the Sophie Alliance are pleased with the progress, but look to add to it. The original collaborative decisions are producing good return on investment with positive outcomes. A few notable lessons learned include: number 1, goals. The 2 foundational goals of the Sophie Project remain the focus of the project. It continues to be a unique learning laboratory for undergraduate students and faculty, providing new dimensions to the learning process for students. The student-faculty mentoring program itself is proving to be highly successful. 2, discoverability and access and use. Discoverability and access continue to improve. Through 2017, there has been an average of 500 downloads each month, a number increasing as more titles are being added. Usage trends, particularly in Europe, indicate recognition of the digital library is sharply increasing. The corpus of work for German-speaking authors is finally coming into light. 3, continued growth. This upward usage trend is expected to rapidly increase because of the search engine optimization aspects of the website. The decision to have the library curate all metadata and technical services functions and migrate the Sophie Project are perhaps the 2 most important initial actions taken. 5, library exposure. Hosting and structuring the Sophie Project on the IR has caught the attention of other faculty and departments across campus. Some have expressed interest in establishing digital partnerships with the library. The library is increasingly being seen as the university expert for content organization, data storage, metadata creation, and application. 6, value of collaboration. Work on the Sophie Project clearly demonstrates the power and benefits of collaborative working relationships. It helps erase unnecessary silos that previously limited sharing of knowledge and skills. Synergies are being achieved for sharing ideas and problem solving. Collegial bonds and respect are strengthened through joint engagement. The Sophie Project is proving to be a valuable learning tool to help our library be relevant, useful, and successful in the 21st century. We're learning to be better listeners, more willing to engage in interdisciplinary research partnerships. It's helping us to identify and shed culture behaviors that are no longer relevant as we look towards the future of digital scholarship. Perhaps most important lesson learned is to be open-minded about ways to support scholars and students through the full cycle of learning, regardless of how trivial the opportunity may first appear. We in the library are extremely pleased to be active collaborators in a project that is advancing scholarship while highlighting the intellectual contributions of German women. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And now we have some time for questions.
This question is for Robert. With Elsevier's acquisition of B-Press, are there any concerns or planned changes for where the Sophie Project is hosted and housed?
That's a very good question. It's one that hasn't escaped us, nor have we not talked about it in our library. However, at this point in time, we're very pleased, as I mentioned, with how B-Press has handled our work and has accommodated us. They've really been a terrific partner, and we have valued them very much. We have decided to proceed with the assumption that though press, our view is that the intent is to make that to continue to be a very successful tool for libraries, and that until we see differently, we think that the personnel with B-Press essentially will stay the same. Their ambitions and goals are consistent with ours, and we'll just have to watch and see what happens with Elsevier in terms of their management of that. But at this point in time, we're going forward with the assumption that we'll continue to use that tool as we have, and hope that there will be great investment in it that will make it a much more rich and powerful tool in the future.
Thank you. I have a question for Ariane and the Web Archive project at the VNF. You mentioned for the Mapping World War I project that one of the outcomes was actually feedback on your policy for harvesting the Web Archive. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
In fact, the librarians selected some websites to document the World War I, websites that were talking about World War I. And then the team from Telecom Paritech, when using it, could say if there were lacking some websites, or if everything was covered. Basically, that is. It's not the general policy, it was the documentary policy on this specific project harvest, because there are large harvesting and there are project harvesting.
I would like to ask a question to Silvia. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect.
Thank you for representing the Latin American perspective. From 2008 to 2012, I was our Latin American librarian, so I know a little bit about Latin America. And one of the great things that Latin America has done is really to put so much online, particularly the governments. I'm thinking of UNAM's Redalic and also Cielo putting on so many journals. My question is, with so much going online and freely available in Latin America, is that in some way hindering interactive projects with DH? I mean, do you find that that's a positive thing or perhaps a negative thing? Am I being clear? Would you like me to be a little more specific?
Yeah, I didn't understand. You were saying that putting everything online might hinder?
Well, you have a lot of governments, you have a lot of universities putting a lot of information online, but now DH is really moving towards more interactive, looking at scraping data off of the web and interacting with it. Are the places that have traditionally put things online simply for reading, are they open to interactive, sort of, Digital Humanities 2.0?
Right. Thank you for your question. Now I get it. Well, Redalic, for instance, the one you mentioned, that it's this great aggregator for journals, they do have interactiveness, so you can do visualizations with their metadata and get more information on who's publishing more on certain subjects and in which years they have done that. And I think it's pretty remarkable given that, JSTOR, which is private, doesn't allow that much interactivity, right? So I think, I didn't have time to just point it, highlight it, but we are not playing on a level field. I've been talking with everyone how many people you have in your IT department, and then BNF says 100 or something like this, right? And the National Library in Mexico has around 20. So, it's very different. We would love to do interactivity, but it's hard with the budget we have. So that's what I said. I think we're doing it as creative as we can. But I think that's something you have to consider when you're comparing digital humanities projects in the US that can buy things like what's the name? Bpress and other projects that cannot buy software. So that was it.
Hello, thank you all for your presentation. I'm Anne, I work for JSTOR. I just wanted to thank you for bringing it up. I just wanted to mention that JSTOR is an NGO, a not-for-profit, and we actually do make data sets. JSTOR itself is not interactive in any way, but we do make data sets available to anyone for free for any kind of data mining purposes. And I believe actually there was a poster, that mentioned that they had actually done it. So for an example, I thought it was excellent. You might want to stop over there. Thank you.
Any other questions? Going once? Going twice? Okay, we're now going to have a session where we're actually going to reflect on the day. So I'm going to turn things over to Sarah Howe, who will introduce our speakers for that session. Thank you.